in about 1986, yeah, it was 1986, Naeem was almost 4, Nicole was almost 9, and we went to the Badlands, and we camped at the Badlands, and we went into Wall, South Dakota, and went to the National Geological Survey. And I got a map that showed where the agate beds in the area were. This was 1986, and the map was, I'm pretty sure it was from 1952. And so we use this map and we go out and we find this track, and that's how it's, what it's called on the map. It's called a track, and it's referred to as mostly passable. And there is actually a turnoff where the map says there should be a turnoff, and we start driving back. And it had been a beautiful time there in the Badlands. I mean, it's sunny and warm and all that kind of stuff. We didn't notice that it had been raining for like 2 months before we got there. And so we're driving out on this prairie, and it looks like dirt, but the dirt's only about this thick, and underneath it is mud. And Kate always insisted on driving in any kind of, shall we say, perilous situation. When we were, you know, if it was a steep hill or whatever, she was driving. And so this was a prairie with, it's dangerous, so she was driving, and we're, you know, we realized that it's starting to get muddy, and so we're looking for like the tufts of grass and stuff like that, and she's like darting back and forth. And eventually we just skid out, and basically the station wagon sinks to the chassis in mud. And we get out and we put the, you know, the floor pads under the wheels to try and get it out, and they just right through. And Kate is pissed. You know, we've got the kids, we're out in the middle of the prairie, and we're stuck down to the chassis. And so we decided somebody needs to go into interior South Dakota and get us pulled out. And Kate says, you are staying here with the kids and keeping them happy and fed and all that kind of stuff. And I am going into interior because I will kill you otherwise. So she heads off, and she's wearing a headband, but we're on a reservation, so nobody will pick her up as she's hitchhiking because I think she's an Indian, a Native American. And then she comes on a herd of longhorn steers on the middle of the road, and she has to like go off the road around the herd of longhorn steers. And she eventually gets to interior, and she comes back with the hugest tow truck I've ever seen, driven by the hugest Native American I've ever seen, Wendell. And she said that as she was driving out, she said, so I guess you get a lot of stupid tourists out here who you need to pull out of the mud like this. And he said, nope. And he gets up there, and the car, he goes, oh, I can't even get close to you. We're gonna have to winch you out. And he's like 100 feet away, and he winches us out. And we get out, and we drive back to interior, and we go to the one place in interior where they have one bar restaurant. We go there, and we have you know, some drinks and some food, and play a little pool. And Kate looks at the map, and she says, okay, so what's this on the map there? And I said, oh, that's an agate bed. And she said, how close is that to the road? And I said, about 40 feet. She says, how come we were going to this one? I said, well, I thought there'd be better agates out there. And she says, okay, let's go back and let's go to this one. And so we went back and we got some rocks. And yeah, she was an adventurer. That's what she did. Jeff.
This is going to be difficult, but if any of you have a big sister, then you know what happens when they're not there anymore. And a while ago, I lost my big brother. And I had to read something in front of a lot of people. It was difficult, just like this. And I started breaking up and having a really tough time. And I noticed that my sister come up and grabbed my arm and helped me through the rest of it. And so that's basically a really short story of how I'm going to miss my sister, because she's not there to grab my arm anymore.
People cope in different ways. I write it down because I won't be able to talk otherwise. I'm Lisa, Kate's sister-in-law. But long before that, I was her friend. We met quite a bit more than half my lifetime ago. She was working with the Columbus Tenants Union, and I came to solicit support for the great boycott with the UFW. Later, she would tease me about that meeting and my youth and idealism. She was working for the Columbus Tenants Union. We hit it off from the start. We both believed in justice. We both had a little bit of the jock in us, and we both loved to have fun. We organized, we played basketball, and we danced with abandon. Over the next few years, Kate was my road trip buddy. She was always up for one of our minimalist vacations. Borrow the folks' car, leave with about 30 bucks cash apiece, some Bisquick, a few other things, and max out her gas credit card. In Canada, on the shores of Lake Superior, we made up stories about the guys at the site next to us. Have to be axe murderers. They actually were leading a Boy Scout camping trip. In South Dakota, we watched sunrise and sunset in the Badlands, sleeping the day away. We had driven there all night after closing down the discotheque in Yankton, South Dakota. Complete with
no discotheque in this.
Oh, complete with mirror ball and lighted floor. Dance floor, we were dancing. I had to coax Kate to a high perch. If you know Kate, I had to coax Kate to a high perch. We sat in silence, rare for us, as a bighorn sheep pranced easily on the rocks around us. We also went to Florida to pack up my grandmother's apartment and traveled to Key West for more sunsets and laughter with our friend Marilyn, reading Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy to one another on the road. She visited me in New York with Fid. We have some pictures of us like combing our armpit hair beneath a sign that says no combing hair or no grooming in the bathroom. And one time on a whim, I suggested we get on our bikes and ride to Athens, Ohio. Kate was up for that too. Wow, big mistake. My mom might remember driving down to Chillicothe and picking us up. On the way back, we made it down, but we ran out of steam on the way home. After a few years of kicking around, Kate took me to a Lawyers Guild party where I met my sweetie Gordon, still together. And not long after that, I was able to return the favor. I introduced her to my brother, Michael. And we invited him to a pretty memorable Kentucky Derby. To those of us that were there, at least. And, well, that was that. He moved out of my parents' house and into her room. My parents were delighted now to have my good friend as their daughter-in-law. We spent many Thanksgivings together laughing at the kids' plays. They were terrible. But we laughed anyway. Cooking and lifting a glass of wine. Kate and Michael were there cooking for the midwives and spinning the tunes when my son Max was born. She picked me up and took me to the hospital when there were worries with my twin pregnancy. There were more Kentucky derbies, many parties, and lots of basketball. And she was more than a friend and more than a sister-in-law, and I will really miss her.